You don't see it yet. But your greatest disadvantage is not your lack of strength. It is not your lack of influence, resources, or allies. Your greatest disadvantage is that you still believe power comes from showing power. You still cling to the childish illusion that fire scares wolves, that loudness intimidates predators, that force alone bends the world to your will. And because you believe that, you expose yourself. You bleed before the blade even touches your skin. You display your intentions, your emotions, your movements. You walk into every room already defeated. Because you walk in trying to be seen, trying to be recognized, trying to be acknowledged. You want others to witness your strength instead of quietly building it. And that desire, that hunger for visibility, is the rope around your neck. Let me cut through the softness you wrap around your weakness. You have been losing because you have insisted on looking strong. The more you assert yourself, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the more they analyze. The more they analyze, the more they adapt. By the time you even attempt to strike, they have already mapped your instincts, your emotions, your impulses. They know your rhythm. They know your vulnerabilities. They know exactly how to control you. That is why you feel trapped. That is why every confrontation leaves you drained, humiliated, or confused. You have been playing the surface game while the true players operate underneath it. You have mistaken noise for influence and presence for power. And so you have become predictable, readable, and easy to manipulate. Do not deny this. Your patterns have been obvious for years. You try to prove yourself. You try to be respected. You want to be seen as strong. And in chasing that illusion, you walk straight into the jaws of every strategic predator around you. You think you need to win battles. But hear me clearly. You need first to stop announcing that you are fighting at all. This is where the dark logic of power begins. A logic so subtle, so counterintuitive, that only a minority ever understand it, and even fewer master it. It is the logic that every ruler I observed in Florence used, whether they understood it consciously or merely survived by instinct. The logic is simple. The strongest position is often achieved by appearing powerless. The most control is gained by appearing harmless. The most devastating strike is prepared under the guise of surrender. While you posture, others study. While you insist, others observe. While you raise your voice, others quietly move behind you. And when you finally realize the trap, it is too late because you revealed your entire arsenal trying to look formidable. You must face this truth without
Dobro jutro,
flinching.
dobar dan.
You have been defeated not by force,
Sti.
but by your own visibility. You overexpose your desire. You overexpose your emotions. You overexpose your intentions.
Eno,
Every time you want something
kutija kako
acknowledgement,
se zove. Ensk.
respect, validation, fairness, you show it. You hand it to the world like a weapon they never had until you delivered it directly into their
Malo pregledam
hands.
kad sam
And
mjesto
then
njih
you
konista i
wonder why they cut you with it.
ujedno stavili.
Power is not
Prekida.
seized in the open.
Ba.
It is grown in the shadows of lowered expectations.
Sad bolje
It is
nije.
acquired behind the mask of harmlessness.
Zašto pričaš, šta si malo
When
prije?
people do not see you
A
as
malo
a
pre
threat,
kažem ulazim pred
they
sat
reveal
da
their
vidim
plans.
novosti
They
za
let their guard
tenkove,
down.
ono mi ne piše
They
ništa. I
underestimate
u
you.
tom momentu
They speak freely around
u
you.
jedan stigne
They
obaveštenje
expose
zove
themselves because they
kutije,
believe
kako
you
se zove
lack
za
the
kinesku novu
sharpness to
godinu.
use their
Aha.
words, their movements, their intentions against them. You want to know
E, pa
why
tamo
the
ne
powerful
ubacili su
stay
nazad
powerful.
onog medveda
It
iz
is not
onih,
because they crush every opponent.
kad su bile
It
tir
is
kutije.
because opponents never see the real strength
Tad nisam
until the
uzeo
moment
medveda,
they are
sad ću
broken.
medveda doslovno.
You must understand something now. Without
Nije
resistance
jasno.
appearing
Znači, ja ne mogu da
powerless
ga
is
probijem, ne
not
mogu da ga
weakness.
pogodim, znači, gon
It
ga
is
u...
camouflage. It is tactical
Joj!
invisibility. It is the one position from which you can observe everything
Kanon Jak
and
Panzer
reveal
2
nothing.
i Young
It
Bing.
is the
Ja sam malo
only
prije
angle
došao da
where you
vidim
gain
kakvi
information without paying the price of exposure.
I onda ne znam ni zašto
It
sam
is the
otvorio onaj
battlefield
Tenžiji, nemam
vantage point
pojma.
from which
Ja
you
nemam
see
pojma
the
isto.
entire
Zašto
terrain,
ja ne mogu da pogodim,
while
a
they
kamo da
barely
probijem
notice you
nešto?
exist. And yet you resist this. You resist because your ego is loud, fragile.
300 mm hit
You have
i
been
turbo
conditioned to believe that
raketni
your
pogon,
worth is
opa
measured
bat.
by how quickly you can prove yourself.
Dvocevka sa
But
raketnim
hear me,
pogonom, ma
the
so
need
mi
to
je
prove
recio, rate
anything is
mili.
itself a confession
Jel
of
to
weakness. The
EU
moment you
server
try to
ili?
demonstrate
EU,
strength,
znači
you
Jog
reveal
Bing, ovo sad što
insecurity.
dolazi u kutija, Jog
The
Bing,
moment you try to
dvocevka ovaj,
convince someone of your
kineski
value,
heavy tank,
you
probijač
surrender
za
that
probijanje.
value for
Turret
their
armor
approval.
300 mm.
This is
Ajde,
why you keep
ajde uzet ću
losing.
tenka da vidimo tih
Not
300
because you lack strength,
armora, znači u kupoli.
but
Ajde,
because you
rate
leak it.
mili.
Let me show you the mechanics of your own blindness. You assume people judge you fairly.
Ima dve
They
malnije
don't.
kapici.
You assume they respect your
A,
openness.
debilizam.
They
Jebem
don't.
ti sunce,
You
znači,
assume showing honesty earns reciprocity.
ja sam
It
debil,
doesn't.
znači, radim jedno te
People are
isto i
not
mislimo
drawn
da
to
će
your
biti drugačiji
sincerity.
rezultat.
They are drawn to your vulnerabilities. They
I
do not
medved,
respect
da im
your
kakav je
transparency.
medved.
They exploit
A
it.
medved je
You have
autoloader,
been living
4
as though the
granate,
world
heavy
rewards good
tank, 4
intentions.
granate.
It doesn't. The world rewards leverage. And leverage is created by knowledge, timing,
Dobar je medved.
and invisibility.
Samo puni 37
Machiavellian
sekundi, dobro,
strategy
4
dictates
granate,
that the
37
moment you
sekundi,
show
to je to,
power,
ali brate.
you must be ready to
Tim
defend
je
it,
nešto neće imati živac,
Sitnica.
reinforce it.
živac
And
za ovo,
escalate it.
ali ajde.
Every display becomes an obligation. Every assertion becomes a
Neće imati
target.
nego što ćeš onda...
The strong attract
A, vidi ga,
challenges.
druga stavka,
The
pilot,
visible
depresija.
attract predators.
Ubi Bože.
The moment you claim a position
0,43.
openly, you ignite a battle.
To
Is
depresija.
that what you want? Because if it
Depresija,
isn't,
Bože, disperzija,
then your
nemam
instinct to
naočare, meni
display
to sad sve
strength is
isto.
not strategy.
To nije
Ne,
It
taj-
is
strategija.
self-sabotage.
Nemam pojma ni gdje sam ih
You must
ostavio,
learn the
ni...
discipline that every ruler, general,
Eto
and
tako negdje šutnem.
strategist before you
Kako i
had to
treba.
learn suppression of appearance.
Disperzija
Holding back the fire so no
0,43,
one sees the
bravo.
You cannot
To se
keep
ceni,
playing a
jel?
game where your opponent knows every card you carry before you even sit at the table. This is why I once warned rulers to appear mild,
Volim ja da
merciful,
ne pogađam ništa, jel?
approachable, even if they were none of those things internally. A harmless exterior disarms suspicion.
Dobro, medved, i
It
šta
lulls
su ono rekli?
enemies
Kanon
into
Jak
false
Panzer verzija
confidence.
2.
It draws them close enough that when you strike, the blow is fatal. Acting powerless is not surrender.
Radi.
It is strategy. Hear me
Igra,
clearly
šta
when
igra?
you act powerless.
Ma nisam još ni ušao,
You
sad
become
gledam.
unpredictable.
Nisu ušao.
When you become unpredictable,
A on će imati klasičan
You become
Siege
dangerous.
mod, Kanon Jak Panzer
When you
2.
become
Neće imati
dangerous,
konaj turm automatski,
you
već imati
finally gain
klasičan
leverage.
Siege mod.
and once you
Kao
have
Windhund,
leverage,
na primjer.
power begins to form around you like armor.
I 311
But you must
mm, pa
first
dobro,
cut
ajde,
away the
311
illusions that have
mm.
weakened you.
Dosmica.
You believe that
A,
emotional
gold,
expression is
1370
connection.
shell velocity, ajde
It is
to
not.
izlači taj shell velocity.
Emotional
Ne
expression
izvlači.
is intel. Others
Ali
read
bolje
it.
mi onda Kanon Jak Panzer
Decode
običan, on ima 268 mm obični A5 ser ima koliko,
You
1000,5
believe that
shell
speaking
velocity.
up asserts dominance. It doesn't. Speaking
Bio
up gives others
478,
data
dobro,
to
ajde.
refine their
Nisam
attack.
mnogo mašio.
You believe that honesty earns trust.
Tako da u svakom
It
slučaju
doesn't.
jedinica je bolja.
Honesty exposes strategy. And strategy
Nego dvojka.
exposed is strategy dead.
Jebate.
You are being manipulated,
Dobro.
not because others are brilliant, but because you are transparent. You must understand
Sad će
that the
polako da
battlefield
ulazimo u
of
ove
modern
tenkove.
power is psychological. You must begin learning reconnaissance, observing patterns, studying motives, predicting moves. You must stop walking into conflicts armed with nothing but emotion. Emotion clouds your vision. Emotion leaks information. Emotion hands the enemy a map of your internal landscape. You cannot win wars
Sì,
when
posso.
you hand out free maps of your weaknesses. Acting powerless neutralizes the aggression others direct toward you. It disarms their suspicion. It turns their attention away. giving you time to gather intelligence, secure your position, and plan your strike. Only from the position of the underestimated can you strike with precision. And make no mistake, you must strike. Power is not maintained by avoidance. It is maintained by choosing the exact moment of attack, the exact target, the exact pressure point. But you cannot choose timing if you are always reacting. And you will always react as long as you insist on being seen. You have lived your life exposed. Now I will teach you to live hidden. You must begin to lower your profile, not as cowardice, as strategy. Let others speak loudly. Let others posture. Let others reveal themselves. Your silence becomes a trap. Your stillness becomes a mirror. People reveal the most when they believe you are irrelevant. They speak their true thoughts. They show their alliances. They underestimate you so profoundly that by the time you move, they
Ramo
cannot
vaan ne
adapt
upiven.
fast enough. Acting powerless is psychological warfare. It is misdirection. It is feigned retreat. The oldest tactic in war. The army that pretends to flee is the army that draws its enemies into ambush. The soldier who kneels invites the attacker to lower his guard. The ruler who acts harmless collects secrets no tyrant could ever extract. You must understand one more truth. The world is full of people who watch you with predatory eyes. They sense weakness. They sense transparency. They sense hunger for validation. And they exploit it. They exploit you because you make it easy. You make it effortless. You reveal your emotional supply lines, the things you need, the people you depend on, the fears that control you. Break this pattern now. Strip them of their advantage. The moment you appear powerless, their map becomes useless. Their predictions collapse. Their hooks detach. Their control evaporates. This is the beginning of your transformation, not acquiring new strength, but hiding the strength you already possess. You don't see it yet, but your greatest disadvantage is not your lack of strength. It is not your lack of influence, resources, or allies. Your greatest disadvantage is that you still believe power comes from showing power. You still cling to the childish illusion that fire scares wolves, that loudness intimidates predators. That force alone bends the world to your will. And because you believe that, you expose yourself. You bleed before the blade even touches your skin. I have seen rulers rise and fall because of this principle. Those who flaunted power were crushed by the alliances, their arrogance provoked. Those who appeared powerless were overlooked, forgotten until the moment they seized entire kingdoms while everyone slept.
Nebe, dragi.
You are standing at the edge of the
Palo mi
same
108
choice.
damage za high
Will
kaliber.
you keep trying to appear
Ne, za
strong
to
and
malo.
continue losing?
Ma
Or
jebi
will you
ga.
finally embrace the
Ne
dark
možeš,
logic
ne
that
može,
every
ti ne da.
strategist knows you win, not by looking powerful, but by being invisible until the strike? This is only the
Sam
beginning.
jednu
You
granatu
must
nije
understand
blokirano,
that
bilo bi mnogo
power is
bolje.
not seized through confrontation,
17,
but through
14, 10,
control of
znači da je
perception.
još jedna od
Your problem
14,
until now
4
is
granate,
simple.
da je jedna
You have
prošla, to
allowed
bilo
others to
idealno.
define how
Ovako,
they see you. And you have cooperated by offering them every detail they needed to keep you small. You thought your visibility made you important. It only made you exposed. You thought your intensity made you respected. It only made you predictable. You thought your opinions made you influential. They only made you targeted. Do you see the pattern? The more you showed, the more they took. The more you asserted, the more they resisted. The more you pushed, the more they pushed back. You keep wondering why your efforts collapse, why people shift away from you, why your moves trigger counterattacks. The answer is brutal but simple. Your strength invites opposition because you show it too early, too loudly, and too often. When you act powerless, You deny others the clarity they need to counter you. This is the essence of strategy, obscurity. Power does not require dominance. It requires ambiguity. Ambiguity is the fog of war that blinds your
Are you
enemies.
fuck?
While
Jao, evo
clarifying
imam
your own
idealan
view,
tim,
you must
znači,
learn
bož.
to be unreadable.
Evo jednoga
Not
majmuna,
mysterious in the romantic
Dream team.
sense. Not
Dream
vague in
team.
the poetic sense. Unreadable in the strategic sense. No cues to interpret. No emotional
Naš on ide
footprints
sa
to follow.
heavyima.
No predictable rhythm to
To je to.
anticipate. To be unreadable is
Da.
to be untouchable. To be
Ko
untouchable
meni
is to be sovereign.
svu sto na onom
Your current
sigurnom
problem
mjestu, svu
is that you
sto,
are
ima
still
2-3 TD-ova
emotionally traceable.
i on uzme
Anyone
svu
can
sto
track you
i
by
krene
watching your
u
face.
hangar da ide onaj.
Your
Što i
tone,
treba.
your energy.
Poginu
You
odmah.
leak sentiment.
Da.
You leak urgency. You leak
Pa jebo majku,
insecurity. And the
meni kad
world
treba TD na
devours
snajpu, kad
whatever
ja nešto
leaks.
spotam.
Acting powerless seals those leaks. It closes
Da
the
nabije nikad ga
pathways
neće
through
imati.
which others infiltrate your psyche.
Bog te mazo, jel te
It
ne može
removes
niko
your emotional
spotati?
fingerprints from the battlefield. Suddenly, people cannot tell whether you are offended, interested, intimidated, or planning something. They cannot decode you. And when they cannot decode you, they make mistakes. They reveal themselves.
Šta igrat ovdje, znači ne da me, RNG mi ne da ništa, čao
Your
zdravo.
silence
Znači,
becomes a psychological weapon.
razguli go. Ensk,
You
znači,
underestimate how
idealna
loudly
mapa za
silence
sedmicu
speaks.
heavy da napravim urnebes,
expect
ali ne da
nice
RNG, čao,
explanations.
čao, zdravo,
Defenses.
razguli, jeb. I mater
Arguments.
svoju.
When you offer none, they panic. They start inventing reasons. They expose their anxieties.
Jebore,
They reveal their
kako,
motives in their
kako
attempts
me
to
jebe?
interpret yours. They confess
Malo prije,
weakness without
ne
realizing
možeš pobijediti, ali
it.
nešto
Do you
barem ulazi.
understand how much power this gives you while they scramble to analyze you? You quietly observe their
Ovdje
disintegration.
znači ja pucam zlato po
Acting
heavyima,
powerless
frontalno
gives you the
ne
vantage
jebe
point of the
2%.
strategist,
A oni po meni
not the
pucaju,
fighter.
znači sve ulazi.
Fighters survive
Dezerter
moment
ne
to
treba mi
moment.
ništa da dobijem.
Strategists survive decades. Fighters bleed for inches. Strategists conquer miles without lifting a blade. Fighters exhaust themselves for recognition. Strategists mobilize invisibly
osmice dobije.
until the moment they decide the entire outcome. You have lived as a fighter, desperate to be seen. Now you must become the strategist, content to be underestimated. Your current problem is that you are still emotionally traceable. Anyone can track you by watching your face, your tone, your energy.
Pa srećan ja
You
jučer
leak
Twitch.
sentiment. You leak
Uključit ću
urgency.
stilno mi obavještenje.
You leak insecurity. And the
Od
world
10 do 4
devours
Varvar Gaming.
whatever leaks.
Nabi mi.
Acting
Ja odmah
powerless
uključio,
seals
ono
those leaks.
dropovi tek u 5,
It
ma je
closes
rekao
the
je
pathways
smate.
through which others infiltrate your
Smije,
psyche.
sva.
It removes your emotional fingerprints from the battlefield. Suddenly, people cannot tell whether you are offended, interested, intimidated,
Ili krenu streamaju 2
or
sata
planning something.
i do
They
6 završa, u
reveal
5
the
kreću
entire
dropovi.
architecture
Pa je rekao
of the
jeb
power
si mater.
structure without realizing
Debil,
you are
znači
mapping
ono,
it.
igraš da kažeš
Acting
ti 2-3
powerless
sata
is
već igra i
reconnaissance disguised as weakness. It is psychological surveillance, masked as self-doubt. It is gathering enemy intelligence while they assume you are incapable of understanding any of it. Every battlefield is won in the
Za
shadows
razliku
long
oko
before the
nekih
armies
ovih
clash.
ovi
The reconnaissance
Twitchera,
unit is more important than the infantry.
Vargar mi ne najavljuje svoje
The
streamove.
observer shapes
Uopšte
the
ne najavljuje.
strategy.
Osim kad
You
su
must
neki
become the
događaji, ali
observer. And to become the observer, you must become invisible.
ako ja znam da ću onda streama, recimo, posle nedelje u utorak, recimo u 2 sata, recimo u 3, otkud znam, nigdje nije napisano.
Watches,
Pa da ja da dođem da
calculates.
a
pogledam.
nemoj da
Your
izgineš
downfall until
sada,
now
Bog te
has
mazo,
been your
šta se
appetite
mrdaš?
for emotional participation. You want to react. You want to respond. You want to clarify. You want to fix misunderstandings. You want to justify your motives. But every time you do that, you lose one more layer of advantage. You surrender initiative.
Eto
You
ga,
surrender
Elc je
unpredictability.
mrtav.
You surrender control. When you act powerless, you no
Tebe,
longer
dragi,
react.
jebote,
You
ja sam
absorb.
ovdje sam.
Reaction is weakness.
Ništa od ovoga.
Absorption is power. The one who reacts is controlled. The one who absorbs is preparing. You must internalize this. The powerless posture is not passive. It is preparation. It is not surrender. It is ambush. Think of the feigned retreat, the most devastating tactic in warfare. Armies pretend to collapse, so the enemy chases them recklessly. Breaking formation, abandoning their defenses, believing victory is already in hand. But the retreat was the bait, and once the enemy stretches too far, once they lose discipline, the retreating army turns and strikes with overwhelming precision. Entire empires have been destroyed by this tactic. Acting powerless is the psychological
Nadam se da
equivalent
će
of a
izgubiti
feigned
ovu partiju,
retreat.
jer
They
ostavili
believe
su
you
jednu
have
stranu
collapsed.
slobodnu, ja sam
They
se
believe you have
utopio, znači
surrendered.
namjerno,
They believe they have
boli
won.
me briga,
And that belief
može mi
dissolves
se.
their caution. It erodes their vigilance. It weakens their armor. People become most vulnerable the moment they think they have already defeated you. This is where you must shift your identity. You are no longer the loud challenger. You are the silent observer. You are no longer the one attempting dominance. You are the one quietly installing influence. You are no longer the visible contender. You are the invisible architect. Think of the feigned retreat, the most devastating tactic in warfare. Armies pretend to collapse, so the enemy chases them recklessly. Breaking formation, abandoning their defenses, believing victory is already in hand. But the retreat was the bait, and once the enemy stretches too far, once they lose discipline, the retreating army turns and strikes with overwhelming precision. Entire empires have been destroyed by this tactic. This is how commanders predict rebellions. This is how true power is carried without display. Acting powerless also forces you to confront one truth. You've been avoiding. You have been hungry for validation. And hunger is the easiest form of control.
Kako to sada
People can
ubacimo?
manipulate you by giving or withholding acknowledgement. This hunger makes you predictable. It makes you emotionally extortable.
Jebim
It makes you a
RNG
pawn.
i mater.
By acting
Taman se izašao
powerless,
nenišenim K97
you
u
starve
kupolu
that
granata,
hunger.
pav, odbaci
You
pogodim u
deny
gusenicu.
others
To
the
je to.
ability to feed or starve you. You detach your self-worth from external recognition. And once you detach from
A
validation,
zato K97
no
mene
one
A57
can control you
probio na
through
S100, ma
approval
nek
or
jede ko.
rejection. Understand that the powerless posture is the psychological fasting of the strategist. You starve your impulses. You starve your ego. You starve your desire to be understood or defended. And in that starvation, you gain clarity. You begin to see motives without sentimental fog. You begin to see alliances without illusion. You begin to see yourself without distortion. This
Sljedeći
is the
posao je da i dalje igram
purification process.
100.
This is psychological discipline.
Nećemo.
This is how the mind transitions from being reactive to being sovereign. You must also confront the reason you've avoided this approach your entire life. You fear being underestimated.
Dobro
You
je,
fear
blokirao
being
sam nešto sa
invisible.
S100.
You fear that if
Ej,
you don't assert yourself,
Otvaraj pivo
you
tamo.
will be forgotten. But hear me with absolute
Oh.
clarity. Being underestimated is one of the greatest power positions you will ever occupy. People attack what they fear. They ignore what they dismiss.
Će mi ovo na kraju da
When you
izgubimo?
act
Hoće.
powerless, you slip under their radar.
Zašto to mene nikad
You
ne čudi?
operate
Zašto
without
ću ja uvijek da
resistance.
izgubim?
Your moves remain undetected. And the fewer people watching you, the more room you have to maneuver. In politics, the most dangerous rival is not the one everyone fears. It is the one no one notices until
Ja
he
gdje
holds
da
the
igram
crown.
kako igram,
You must
ali
stop
nekako
trying to
lagano
matter in
igram.
the eyes of the crowd.
Pravi se damage
The
nešto.
crowd grants attention one day and takes it the next. Their approval
Ovi
is
si nešto kao
meaningless.
žure, oči
Their
pravi neke
recognition
damage,
is a
neki
trap.
kurs.
Power does not
A ja
come from
zato ja
being
isto
seen.
malo poželim.
It comes from being positioned. The powerless posture is how you reposition yourself without drawing resistance. You remove yourself from the competition without removing yourself from the board. While they battle publicly for dominance,
Ljubiš,
you
normalno.
quietly secure influence. Acting powerless also reveals
Jebote, ja sam
something
se borio
profound
protiv...
about the people around you who they
Sam i na
become when they
K97 i na
believe you
E4 i na
cannot fight
drugog
back.
E4.
People
Ja ne
show
znam
their
šta je
true
ostao, da je ostatak
nature
tima
not
izginuo.
when they are challenged,
More
Bliskovica
when
pitanje.
they
smo ostali.
believe the other is
Znači,
defenseless.
E4, Bliskovica se
The
vatala
mask
sa jednim
drops.
E4, ja sam s
The
drugim
predatory
E4. I
impulse
K91.
emerges. The disrespect becomes
Kako su
unrestrained.
naših petorica
If you want to know someone's character,
izginuli od njih četvorice.
appear
Meni
powerless.
je to,
Their
ta
behavior
računica
toward
nije
you in
jasna.
that moment is the truth beneath every performance. And do not
Nekad imam
mistake
živac
that
gledao
truth
bi
as
te replaye
betrayal or
da vidim
cruelty. It is data. It is reconnaissance.
šta su radili. Mene to
It tells
interesuje,
you
šta
exactly
su
who
oni
deserves
radili
to
da su
remain in
uspeli
your
da
orbit
izgube
and
5
who
na
must be
4.
removed from your strategic field. The powerless
Ništa.
posture gives you the clearest map of human
Mislim,
nature
to je meni
you will ever
fascinantno.
receive.
To
To je
me...
meni fascinantno, znači čovjek mene probija, a ja običnom
People reveal
nije zlatno.
secrets only when they believe you lack the cunning to use them. People show their alliances
Pa
only
zlat.
when they believe you
Ma
cannot
jabola,
influence
znači,
the
ne
outcome.
možeš tu mora ubiti,
People
ne
drop their
možeš
guard
probiti u
only when they
kupolu, ne
believe
možeš
you are
nigdje.
irrelevant. Irrelevance is a disguise. You must wear it deliberately. When you act powerless, you transform yourself into the perfect vessel for intelligence. You listen without defending. You observe without reacting. You gather without announcing. And the world begins to reveal itself to you in ways it never did before. But there is a deeper reason. Acting powerless works. It shifts the hierarchy entirely. When you stop competing for dominance,
Gdje je sad onaj Ferdinand?
you refuse the role they have assigned you. When you stop proving yourself, you stop playing by their rules.
Ja
When you stop
čekam đava
reacting,
crnoga,
you
znači.
stop being a target. This is how you rewrite the battlefield. You no longer fight on the terrain they control. You build a new terrain beneath their feet. Your powerlessness is the underground tunnel beneath the fortress. Your powerlessness is the silence before the detonation. Your powerlessness is the fog in which your real strategy forms. And when the moment comes, and it will, you will strike from a position no one even remembered you occupied. This is the dark logic of power. You win not by overpowering people, but by letting them expose themselves. You advance not through force, but through invisibility. You dominate not through aggression, but through strategic absence. Acting powerless is not a retreat. It is the forging of a new identity, the identity of someone who no longer wastes energy on noise, pride, or performance. You stop caring how strong you look and begin caring how strong you actually are. You stop chasing the illusion of influence and begin constructing the architecture of real control. This is how rulers rise, without ever entering.
Inače, i ovo da izvojim, uzeli su na onaj mapa Gletscher 5 mediuma, to je.
This is how you begin your ascent,
Koji treba.
not through display, but through
Znaš kako,
disappearance.
znaš kako,
This is your new
ja
discipline.
pokušavam napraviti evo
You have begun to
dvije
see
medalje.
what you refuse to accept for
Znači
yours.
nekoga ako mogu da
You have been
zapalim
fighting the wrong war on the
i
wrong
duelista,
battlefield with
znači
the
da
wrong
ubijem dva
weapons.
tenka koja su mene
You kept
oštetila.
trying to assert strength in a
Ne
world
ide mi,
that punishes
ne može,
visibility.
Dobro.
ne da, high
You kept
kaliber
trying
ne
to
da,
stand
malo
out
prije
in
ne
a
da,
landscape
znači,
where the most lethal
tako da se
positions are
nemoj ništa
underground.
se čuditi
Dobro, to
što ti
znam
ništa
kad
ne
je
da.
referal.
Finally shedding that naive instinct to
Referal je
broadcast your
znači
power.
muka živa.
But understanding the
Jutros.
principle is not enough. You must now reshape your behavior, your identity, your very psychological posture into something unrecognizable to those who once read you easily. Acting powerless is the first step toward becoming unreadable. But unreadability alone does not create dominance.
Dobro,
You must combine unreadability with selective
nema
action.
niko sa mnom ovdje.
You must strike in silence, advance in shadows, and influence without exposing your hand. Your previous life was full of noise, talking too much, explaining too much, clarifying too much, proving too much. Every sound you made betrayed a piece of strategy you didn't even realize you were sacrificing. You now must cultivate quiet precision. This is where
Naravno da je čak meni
discipline
došlo
comes
s leđa.
in, not the
To je na...
discipline of the body, But the discipline of the
I to ne
mind,
jedan čovjek, dva
the
čovjeka su mi
discipline
došli.
to
Da taj pet
withhold,
mi je došao s
the
leđa. Zamisli
discipline to wait,
da ti taj pet
the discipline to gather
mi dođe s
intelligence
leđa.
without
Koji
reacting to
treba.
it. You must learn to tolerate the discomfort of being misunderstood. Weak people rush to correct perception. Powerful people let perception work for them. Weak people
Znaš,
defend
krenem da
themselves.
ne igram po onim
Powerful
koje
people let
kakim...
false assumptions
nisam
become
ovo.
camouflage. Weak people need the truth to be known. Powerful people need only the truth to be useful. You cannot afford to be emotionally impulsive anymore. If someone mocks you, let them. If someone doubts you, let them. If someone dismisses you, let them. If someone misunderstands your silence, let them.
Ja, da.
Their assumptions will serve you far more than any correction ever could. Every misinterpretation they cling to becomes another layer of cover you can move behind. The powerless posture strengthens you because it forces others to reveal themselves while giving you no obligation to reveal anything in return. You must remain adaptable, constantly absorbing information, constantly updating your assessment, constantly recalibrating your position. But adaptability requires that you do not tie your identity to any single perception of yourself. You cannot cling to an image. You cannot cling to pride. You cannot cling to ego. Those attachments make you rigid, and rigid minds shatter under pressure. Acting powerless removes the burden of performance. You no longer have to uphold an image of strength. You no longer have to justify your choices.
Poviše sa druge
You no
strane
longer
sve.
have to win every interaction. You no longer have to be right. You only need to be effective. And effectiveness requires fluidity. When you act powerless, you become fluid, able to slip between conversations, alliances, and dynamics without detection, without resistance, without counterattack. You move like water through cracks others don't even see. This is how power accumulates, in silence, drop by drop, insight by insight, position by position. But here is where you must confront another truth. You have been predictable. People know how to provoke you.
Dobar.
They know what words ignite your anger, what gestures trigger your insecurity, what behaviors summon your explanations. They have learned your pattern, and anything predictable can be manipulated. Acting powerless breaks this pattern because it interrupts your emotional rhythm. It prevents your usual reactions. It forces others to guess, and the more they guess, the more they reveal about themselves. Predictability is death in any power game. Unpredictability is armor. The powerless posture
Idemo.
introduces unpredictability into your psychological presence. You slow down your reactions. You remove emotional quiz. You respond with neutrality. You wait. You watch. You give nothing. People cannot anchor themselves to you. They cannot read your internal state. They cannot anticipate your next move. And when they cannot anticipate, they cannot strategize against you. This is how you begin shifting from the role of the pawn to the role of the unseen player. You must now understand something deeper. Acting powerless is not just about hiding strength. It is about strategically using the appearance of weakness to force others into positions that serve your long-term advantage. When people believe
Vidi
you
ga,
are
taj
powerless,
5 heavy
they
4000
stop
HP-a,
competing
to je
with
to.
you. They stop monitoring you.
Kako to nabije?
They stop redirecting
Od
resources
7 na 7,
towards
7 na 7
stopping
ti
you.
već daje jedno
They free space for your rise
lopiću
without
500
realizing they
HP-a.
are doing so.
Dobro.
They create the perfect
Isključivo 7 na
environment for
7.
your ascent.
Aha.
Tako,
In
to ti je to.
politics, I once watched factions
Di
spend
bile duže
years
trajale,
tearing each
zato
other
su to.
apart.
Ma
while
šta imaš
seemingly
igrat duže,
insignificant
znači da
officials
završimo
quietly
za 30
accumulated
sekundi, idemo
loyalty.
sljedeću.
To je evo njihov 3990 HP, a ja s mojim Type 5 Hidden 3950.
faction. He acted
Imali ili
powerless,
roze
so
opremu ili...
convincingly that they
Aha,
dismissed him from
onaj
every
crveni
calculation.
HP.
When the dust settled,
Tako je,
he was the only man left
sumnjam da
standing
imaju
with
to,
the
ne vjerujem da imaju
structural
ljubičasti.
power to command the direction of the entire city.
Što ne
They
bi imao?
treated him as irrelevant. He became indispensable. This is the dark logic of power. Those who are underestimated gain the freedom to position themselves where no one is looking. The same applies to you. Acting powerless gives you access to unseen
Sad bi mu
angles.
taj
When
ljubičasti dao
people do
više.
not monitor you, you see opportunities they miss. When people do not challenge you, you move freely. When people do
Ima
not
neko
fear
i moje
you,
procene, sad ja ne znam.
they share what they should hide. This is how influence grows without contest.
Možda i grešim, nije
Influence
sad to.
grows not from confrontation, but from quiet infiltration.
Pazi, možemo da ih satremo, dvojica su se razdvojili. Znači, dvojica su se razdvojili, znači imamo...
Requires harmlessness. Harmlessness requires the appearance of powerlessness. This is not deception for its own sake. This is strategy. You must now train your mind to withstand three forms of discomfort. The discomfort of being underestimated.
Pa nek ti jebote pomogne 140. Ne mogu ja s taj 5 heavy da jurim CS sa 63.
Your
Možeš.
instincts will rebel. Your pride will scream.
To je način.
Your emotions
Mogu.
will demand
Samo
expression.
stavim soli na rep.
Ignore them.
A 140 umjesto da uleti u hangar, pazi, umjesto da uleti u hangar da pomogne Foču, on ide
Pride is a
okolo
fire
hangara
that
da
burns
juri
your own supply
okolo hangara,
lines.
a C63 je u hangaru.
Expression is a leak in your
Majem
psychological
debelo,
armor.
Znači,
idiotizam čisti.
moram da im
Acting
kako je taj
powerless
140,
forces you to
mislim da nije,
dominate yourself before you dominate
mislim
the
da nije,
environment around you.
nije nešto u
The
vinklu s
real
mozgom.
war is internal.
Nemoj zezati.
You must conquer your impulses. Your fear of invisibility. Your need for validation. The enemy will not break you, your impulses will. Learn to suffocate them. Learn to silence them. Learn to observe without
Ne pruža mi
reacting.
neko poverenje, razumeš?
This is not suppression. This is command. The commanders I studied throughout my life shared one trait: they controlled themselves with more discipline than they controlled their soldiers. Their expression, tone, timing, and silence were calculated. They withheld their real intentions until the battlefield forced revelation. That is what you must adopt. Now, intentional withholding, intentional restraint, intentional invisibility. Acting powerless is restraint weaponized. Now you must learn how to apply this posture to specific
Nekad volim odmah već
contexts.
napred.
In conversations, you speak less, not because you have nothing to say, but because
Kad
you
će ga
are
neko nabije
gathering
dok je
information.
trekovan, to...
You let others fill the silence. People
7-3.
reveal everything when you give them room. They tell you their priorities, their grudges, their insecurities, their alliances, all while believing they are merely expressing themselves. They do not realize they are handing you intelligence on a silver plate. In conflict, you resist the urge to defend yourself. Defense is a confession of vulnerability.
Jebote, sunce, heavy je nevidljiv, Bog te malo
Your
maza
opinion
između,
has
iza malo zbunja,
You will
on je
not give them
nevidljiv.
that gift anymore. You will respond with calm, with neutrality, with indifference. Your lack of emotional reaction destabilizes them.
Ček je
They
nevidljiv.
cannot escalate because
Ne možeš ga
escalation
otspotati.
requires resistance. And you provide none. They cannot dominate you because domination requires
Ne možeš
friction.
pogoditi, ne možeš to
And you offer none.
odspotat.
Their frustration exposes their motives. Their aggression exposes their weakness. Their certainty exposes their blind spots. Acting powerless in conflict is the quickest way to exhaust an opponent's psychological stamina. Your instincts will rebel. Your pride will scream. Your emotions will demand expression.
Jebe, dragi.
Ignore them. Emotions
To
are
je debilizam.
luxuries you can no longer afford. Pride is a fire that burns your own supply lines. Expression is a leak in your psychological armor. In conflict, you resist the urge to defend yourself. Defense is a confession of vulnerability. Defense says, your opinion has power. You will not give them that gift anymore. You will respond with calm, with neutrality, with indifference. Your lack of emotional reaction destabilizes them. They cannot escalate because escalation requires resistance. And you provide none. They cannot dominate you because domination requires friction, and you offer none. Their frustration exposes their motives. When the moment finally comes to assert yourself, your strike must be precise, decisive, and silent. You do not roar. You do not declare. You do not celebrate. You simply take what you came for, without ceremony, without performance, without apology. And by the time they realize what you have done, you are already entrenched, already positioned, already beyond their reach. This is how real power behaves. Not loudly, overwhelmingly, but the powerless posture serves one more purpose. It allows you to study the battlefield while remaining unseen. You begin to map the psychological terrain of your environment, who holds influence, who lacks discipline, who seeks validation, who craves control, who fears conflict, who manipulates through emotion. Every environment is a battlefield. Every social circle is a miniature political structure. Every workplace is a kingdom of competing agendas. Every household is a hierarchy. Acting powerless enables you to analyze these structures without triggering defense mechanisms, without drawing aggression, without exposing your analyses. You watch. You calculate. You become the shadow that sees everything while revealing nothing. And eventually, you will reach the moment where you no longer just act powerless.
Može.
You become
Znači, ja njega
strategically
ne mogu
autonomous.
probiti, ti mene probi.
You become someone who needs no display, no recognition.
Da, sad će ovaj mene samo da gađa.
Šta
Ja
si
uleto
sad
zadnji.
pogodio?
From playing the game to redesigning the board.
Aha,
This
vidio.
transformation will terrify those who once controlled you through your emotions. They will feel
Da
your
pomažem ja
actions
gore
actions,
prošli nego.
and it will destabilize them.
Sad ga ne
They
mogu
will
ospotati.
sense
Ne
a
možeš ga
change in you
ospotati,
long
Bog te
before they
mazi.
understand it.
Alo?
But do not rush to reveal anything. Let confusion work in your favor. Confusion disarms people. Confusion makes them choose poorly. Confusion makes them vulnerable.
Ne mogu
Your new
ospotati, Bog te
silence
mazi.
becomes the labyrinth they lose themselves.
Jebote sa dosadnim
If
svojim
you execute
artiljerijama.
this posture correctly, you will feel
Vidi,
a
opet
Dva
ja
puta
tebe
po
mogu.
450.
unmistakable when you realize you no longer fear being
A
underestimated.
nemlja ljudi HP-a
You
više
begin
za
to welcome it
ove
because
stvari.
you understand that underestimation
Jebote,
is the
da put po
cloak under which
450
your
bacio ove
influence
artiljerije iz ovog
spreads
režima
undetected.
7/7.
The
Ode
powerless
900
posture
HP-a,
becomes
druže,
your
nijem
shield.
30 mi ostalo.
Your shield becomes your cover. Your cover becomes your strategy. Your strategy becomes your ascent. This is where you stop being the victim of other people's perception and begin using perception as a weapon. You stop fearing shadows and start using them as territory. You stop trying to win arguments and start winning outcomes. You stop performing strength and start wielding it. This is the evolution of power, first invisible, then inevitable. You are now beginning the phase where your invisibility becomes your advantage, and your advantage becomes your authority. You have now entered the final stage of transformation, the point where strategy demands not just understanding, not just discipline, but execution.
Ima li koja granata da hoće negdje ući?
For you to contemplate. It is the ground you must walk on. It is the air you must breathe.
Pa može li nešto da uleti, Bog te mazo?
From this moment on. But before you attempt to apply it, you must grasp the last truths that separate the strategist from the defeated. You believe you fear powerlessness, but the reality
Dobro,
is
ostao sam
harsher.
živ,
You
7-1,
fear the
jebote.
responsibility that comes with hidden power. Open power is easy. People see it.
Pa Bog te jebu!
Acknowledge it. Upload
Pa
it
je li ovo
or
realno?
fear it.
Je li ovo jebeno realno, znači?
It forces you to take full responsibility for your position,
Ovo je nerealno više.
your motives, your strikes. It forces you to
Ovo
act
je
without
jebeno
applause,
nerealno, znači ne možeš da pogodiš, ne možeš probiti.
without external confirmation. And that terrifies you. You have lived your life. being guided by emotion, by reaction, by expectations, by pressure. Now you must learn to guide yourself. This is the moment when you must decide whether you will remain
Bježi
dependent on
odavde, Bog te
external
mazo.
certainty, or whether you will become the architect of your own command. Acting powerless forces you to stand alone in your own silence. It forces you to trust your own analysis. It forces you to
Bro, ne
believe
možeš
your
ga
own
vidjeti,
eyes
jel?
instead of needing the world to agree with you. This shift is psychological warfare against your former self. It is the death of the child within you that needed to be seen. It is the burial of the
Jebem
ego
ti
that
mater, ti
demanded
jebem
constant
debi.
reassurance.
Jebote,
It is the
retardirana igra
collapse of
više
the
u pičku
emotional
mater da se
scaffolding that
goni.
once held you up,
Jebote,
but
sunce,
also
pa ne možeš
limited you.
ne možeš probiti
You are
te,
not just
sa
learning a
sedmicom,
strategy.
šesticom ne možeš
You
probiti,
are
ne
undergoing a
možeš jebeno
psychological
probiti šestice.
reformation. And now,
Pa jest
we must step
jebeno
deeper into
govno,
the
pa kako ne
darkest
vidim
truth of
odmah na
power.
početku da će biti govno da
Control is
izađem, da
held
se
by
ne
those
patim
who
ovoliko.
appear to seek it least.
Potrošim 10 minuta na
Ambition
kurac.
displayed becomes a threat. Ambition concealed becomes destiny. When people believe you are powerless, they relax. When they relax, they make careless decisions. When they make careless decisions, you gain openings. Openings you would never have access to if you tried to look powerful. You must understand this clearly. Your rise will not come from confrontation, but from the
Koji
self-inflicted weaknesses
debilizam,
of those
jebem ti
around you.
sunce.
Your job is to let them weaken themselves while you remain silent. Your job is to let them reveal
I
their
moja
blind
omiljena
spots
map.
while you
Čo,
remain
daj mi
neutral.
Himmelsdorfa, Bog
Your
te mazo,
job
šta
is
mi
to let
daješ
them
ove retardir...
underestimate you
Jaoj,
while you grow beneath
retardirane,
their
mapu
awareness.
znači...
This is the true battlefield, the mind of the opponent. When you act powerless,
Črću da to do ovoga.
you fight in the realm of perception, not brute force. You reshape the enemy's expectations. And expectations are the blueprint of
Idem
their
odmah da se
strategy.
bacim sa
If
litice,
they
idemo
misjudge
sljedeću
you,
partiju. Znači, ovo ne želim
their
uopšte da se
entire
igram. Znači,
blueprint
čim ja dobijem
collapses.
Ares, malo prije
Their
čovjek je
timing
pobio mi
collapses.
pola tima,
Their
a ja ne
assumptions
mogu da
collapse.
probijem nekog tenka,
Their
znači da
readiness
ga pogodim,
collapses.
nego mogu da ga
Their
probijem.
emotional composure collapses. Their
Jebem
intelligence
ti sunce i
collapses.
RNG takav.
One
Jebote RNG
miscalculation
znači
on
kad
their
je
part becomes
predominira,
local on your
znači odmah.
part.
Sad možda ovdje bude
Acting
dobar
powerless
RNG za mene, ali
manufactures
ja to neću
miscalculations.
saznati.
This
Neću
is the art
saznati
that
je li
every
bio
ruler,
dobar za mene ili nije bio
every
dobar.
general, every manipulator, every strategist has used since the beginning of human civilization to win by creating illusions in the minds of others. Illusions so
Jebem ti
convincing that
sunce,
people lose before
ne
they
može se
even
ubiti.
notice you moved. But there is more, a deeper layer
Ne može se
that only the
bacio sam se
truly
sa
powerful
litice
ever understand.
40 metara, ne može
Acting
uništiti
powerless
tenka.
is not just a way to disarm others.
Miš u
It is a
pičku
way to
materinu.
study your own hunger for power. This hunger must be disciplined. Unrestrained ambition is just another form of weakness, another way to be manipulated. If others know what you want, they can control you through it. If others know what you fear, they can corner you with it. Acting powerless eliminates these vulnerabilities because it silences your expression of desire and exposes the desires of others. Instead, when you stop revealing what you want, you begin controlling what they reveal. Power comes from information. Information comes from silence. Silence comes from the powerless posture. And the more information you gather, the more invisible influence you gain. Influence without resistance, without detection, without contest. There is a cold beauty in this strategy, a beauty you must learn to appreciate. Power gained through invisibility is permanent because it is not tied to reputation, popularity, or social approval. It is not dependent on the crowd. It is not dependent on fear. It is not dependent on intimidation. It is dependent only on your ability to observe, calculate, and move at the exact moment of highest leverage. This is why rulers fall and silent strategists rise. This is why loud leaders collapse under the weight of their own visibility. While the quiet ones build empires in the dark, you must now confront the final truth. Acting powerless is not the end goal, it is the bridge. The bridge that leads you to a kind of power others will never see. never understand, never be able to counter, but you must be prepared to cross it.
Otvorim svog.
Many
Oj,
fail
jebim
here.
ni ti.
They resist
Radi
the
što.
quiet.
Imam jedan
They
šut bilo.
resist the waiting. They resist the
Nije
ambiguity.
sve u redu.
They want the
Jedan pobedit ćemo,
gratification
a
of
imam
being
jedan šut, evo dva
recognized, not the satisfaction
Dva
of
šuta,
being effective.
899.
Bravo.
That
Znači,
is why
čovjek
they
me nabi
remain
ne mogao
pawns.
otspotati.
A pawn fears invisibility. A strategist thrives in it. You must now embrace the final phase of this transformation,
Ne ide
converting
ovo
your
nikako.
invisible position into decisive control. This requires timing,
Još jedan
and
tank
timing
i
requires
bježe odavde.
observation.
Znači, nema tu
You
šta.
must wait for the moment when all variables align when their guard is lowered. Their alliances fractured, their attention diverted, their certainty inflated. That is the moment when acting powerless becomes deadly. You strike precisely when they believe you never will. You step forward exactly when they assume you cannot. You assert dominance at the point where their vigilance reaches its weakest point. This is how battles are won without being fought. This is how power is seized without being contested. You will not argue. You will not justify. You will not explain. You will not request permission. You will act silently, coldly, unapologetically. And when you do, the world will not understand how you suddenly became untouchable. They will not comprehend how you rose without visibility. They will not see the countless observations, the countless calculations, the countless moments of restraint that formed your ascent. You strike precisely when they believe you never will. You step forward exactly when they assume you cannot. You assert dominance at the point where their vigilance reaches its weakest point. You will not argue. You will not justify. You will not explain. You will not request permission. They will tell stories about you, but none of those stories will contain the truth. Because the truth is this: you rose because you acted powerless long enough to become unstoppable. Will you continue exposing yourself to the world, playing loudly, reacting impulsively, bleeding information like a wounded soldier, dragging his sword through the dirt? Or will you become the one the world never sees coming? Now you stand before the final question. The question every strategist must ask themselves before they commit to the battlefield of life. Will you remain a pawn loud, exposed, readable, breakable? Or will you become a commander, silent, watchful, unreadable, inevitable? You must commit fully. This is where I leave you, not with comfort, not with encouragement, but with a command. Choose. Choose whether you will continue the old pattern that has chained you, weakened you, exposed you, humiliated you, the pattern of seeking acknowledgement, seeking validation, seeking recognition, or choose the ruthless path of strategic invisibility. Choose the cold discipline of silence. Choose the armor of unreadability. Choose the vantage point of underestimation. Choose the battlefield of perception. Choose the moment of decisive action that no one sees until it is irreversible. You cannot continue as you are. You cannot remain both visible and powerful. You cannot be emotionally transparent and strategically effective. You cannot cling to your ego and rise above those who manipulate theirs. You cannot have the comfort of being understood and the sovereignty of being unstoppable. You must kill the former version of yourself, the one who needed to be seen, and step into the identity of someone who commands the unseen. This is the last truth I will give you. Act powerless long enough, and the world will forget you. Let them forget you. Let them turn away. Let them believe you have vanished. Let them assume you surrendered. Because when you finally rise, they will not understand how you did it. They will not understand how you outmaneuvered them. They will not understand how you became a force they cannot predict. cannot provoke, cannot dismantle, and by the time they begin to understand, it will be far too late. Now choose your direction pawn or commander. The battlefield is waiting. Your silence is waiting. Your moment is waiting. Take command, or remain commanded. You cannot continue as you are. You cannot remain both visible and powerful. You cannot be emotionally transparent and strategically effective. You cannot cling to your ego and rise above those who manipulate theirs. You cannot have the comfort of being understood and the sovereignty of being unstoppable.
Pali ga, pa Gdje pogađaju ove granate, Bog?
You have been taught to show strength, to fight openly, to demand what is yours. That is why you lose. You expose your intentions like a soldier who fires before aiming. You wear your hunger on your face.
Kod, medalja
And those who
napokon.
understand power
Bog
can
te
smell
mazo,
that
jedva
desperation
neka
long
medalja
before you
znači.
even enter the
Jedva
room.
medalju da skupim.
You mistake noise for
Vidi,
dominance.
znači zaletio sam se 2 artiljerije
Visibility for
pobio.
control.
15-3 smo
You think
završili.
victory is achieved by those who shout the loudest or stand the tallest.
No do sada malo,
But listen
pa ću doći
carefully.
kasnije.
Power does not belong to those who win loudly. It belongs to those who can disappear into defeat and still command from within it. The mask of control is not worn by those who boast
Dva
of it.
penala.
It is worn by those who pretend to surrender, only to command
Minus
the direction of
70.000.
surrender itself. You have been taught to hate losing. You have been conditioned to associate it with weakness, humiliation, or failure. Yet the greatest strategist knows that apparent defeat